Some people reject the Bible as evidence for the resurrection of Jesus Christ. They insist that we must find evidence outside the Bible, and that any evidence within the Bible must be automatically rejected. They say you cannot use the gospel accounts to show that Jesus rose from the dead because those are biased accounts. Well, first, I think there is evidence outside the Bible. For example, Josephus testified that James, the brother of Jesus, was martyred for the faith. He also testified to the martyrdom of Paul, for example, as did a few other sources. So there's at least some evidence outside of the Bible itself. I won't go into all the details. Suffice to say that it's oversimplifying to say that there is none outside the Bible. Second, I don't see why we should reject the Bible as evidence for the resurrection of Jesus Christ. If you're going to reject it on grounds that the Bible is biased, that's simply an invalid objection. I spoke to a history professor about this last year, and he assured me that no credible historian is going to reject a historical account simply because the account is biased. Historians acknowledge that there will tend to be bias within historical accounts, and so they account for that, but they don't throw the accounts out outright. If you think about it, this should come as no surprise. Historians will tend to write about matters that are important to them. That's why you have Jewish historians writing about the Holocaust, for example. I don't begrudge them that. That's perfectly reasonable. Merely being biased does not make their accounts invalid. In fact, if you think about it, when it comes to the gospel accounts, or when it comes to the resurrection, this is not the sort of thing that you can be unbiased about. You cannot take a neutral stand when it comes to the resurrection. If Jesus really did rise from the dead, and if you knew about it, you would fall in one of two camps. You would fall among those who bow down before Jesus and worship him as Lord and Savior, or your heart will be hardened and you will reject Jesus altogether. There is no middle ground. There is no reasonable individual can just look at such an event with total disinterest and not express any feelings about it, one way or another. The fact that the gospel accounts attest to the resurrection with boldness, with conviction, is not sufficient grounds for rejecting the resurrection, or for rejecting them as historical sources. Not at all. It's exactly the sort of thing you would expect if Jesus did indeed rise from the dead.